Like the Real Housewives of Max Verstappen up in here.
Checo's checked out.
Joe Anu is off the track. That steak is cooked.
I gotta say, a lot is at stake for Steak F1.
Man, even the broadcast couldn't handle that stat.
Man, my heart almost was screaming like, how can anybody be a Lewis Hamilton fan?
No.
Not on my 2024 bingo card.
Yeah, you're gonna have to create a new one now.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Lights Out Latest. My name is Marina, and I'm here with Tristan, Steven, and Jason. And today we're going to talk a little bit about silly season and what we think next year's grid is going to look like. But before we get into that, headlines from this week. The employee who accused Christian Horner of misconduct has officially filed a complaint, an appeal, I guess, against RedBull on their decision. I think it's their decision to dismiss her, as in, suspend her, but it may be, dismiss her complaint.
I thought that's what
do you guys think?
I thought that's what they said last week we did the pod and we were talking about it. And they did officially in the statement suspend? Wasn't that what they said?
Yeah, they suspended her.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then they also when they put out their statement saying that it had been the investigation been concluded, they said she had a right to appeal.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So,
there's in the statement it just said that she had 3 weeks, I think, to appeal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she struck pretty quick then.
I believe the official appeal is going through the FIA.
Well,
so it's the FIA is going to re-review it, make sure it's all
above
board.
Yeah.
I don't think anything will come out of it. At this point, it has been around for so long, it almost feels like it's just going to fade away as no action.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. But speaking of the FIA, Felipe Massa has officially filed a lawsuit against the FIA, F1 management, Formula One itself, and Bernie Ecclestone over the 2008 Crashgate scandal and his championship.
That man wants his trophy.
Oh, yeah,
Real
he does.
So what I found was that the official thing is that essentially he just wants that Grand Prix, which I believe was the Singapore Grand Prix, to just be nulled. Any points anyone got from that race to be taken away. And if that were to happen, I'm 99% sure it's his championship.
Yeah, it would be, but the question is, of course, will he get that championship?
I don't think he'll ever get it.
What I heard is he's just going to go after monetary damages.
Yeah,
because
to
becoming an F1 champion, you get tons of sponsorship deals, ton of recognition, probably a bonus in your contract.
Yeah.
And Bernie Ecclestone, he admitted in an interview later on saying, "Oh yeah, we knew the whole time. It's just that we didn't act fast enough to cancel the Grand Prix. We decided to let it stand."
What he said. What I remember him saying was that we knew before, but at the time, even now, once the decision is finalized and the next season begins, there's no going back on what happened last season.
He's never going to get the trophy.
He's never going to get that trophy. He's never going to be the 2008 Formula One world champion, just like Lewis is never going to be the 2021 world champion as much as he wants it.
It's the stability of the sport. People are it's nobody's understanding if you take that you're re-scrambling the entire history of the sport if you give Massa that championship. It changes a lot of things.
And that wouldn't just be seen in F1 either. You would, if that happened in F1, you would see entire fallout in all other major sports.
Oh yeah, sure.
I agree.
You would see, what was it, when Lance Armstrong got caught?
Yeah, that's what I was actually literally about to say.
Some of it, technically most of his wins were nullified, but you can't really go back and rerun and re-give out the Tour de France trophy.
It's unfortunate because it does kind of fall into history is written by the victors in the sense of F1 got their story, Hamilton won his championship. The only one that really did suffer was Massa. Yeah. And he's never going to win that fight, even if he's right. Even if he is right.
The most he would do is recover the monetary damage.
Yeah, that's the best you can do. Yeah. So, I'm hoping for the best in terms of if he can get that monetary value back, then that's good. Yeah. But, that's all you can really ask
My
for.
question is, what has he been up to these days? I know he's popped up every once in a while in F1 races.
Did he race Formula E?
He was at the...
For a split second, he did race Formula E, but it's been a while.
He was at the Brazilian GP last year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's an F1 ambassador, but then ever since
He's been in
last
Brazilian
year...
stock car a little bit.
Okay. Ever since last year when he first put this... I don't want to say this statement, but when he started talking about pursuing this issue, they kind of cut back on his duties, and I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if it's from their side or from his side, but he hasn't really been showing up much.
Yeah.
Especially he used to be a lot more involved with Ferrari and everything like that, but he hasn't really been.
Well, listen, if one of my besties
lately.
wants to sue me for a couple $1 million, I'm sure I wouldn't be giving them all the frontline work.
You're not going to be an ambassador for the sport you're suing.
No, 100%.
That would look a little off-putting.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Ferrari, their number 2 driver for last week's race in Jeddah, Ollie Bearman, failed his UK driving test due to traffic infringement, which I thought was so funny.
Man, I need more context on this. I mean,
he's not the only one who's failed his driver test.
I'm sure, but how?
I have to double check, but I feel like Charles failed his driver's test.
I'm curious, what does the traffic light infringement mean? Does that
That's
mean
what
he
I'm
went
saying.
through it?
Through a red light?
It was through a yellow or?
Yeah, I've heard
Probably.
a couple different. Somebody said, "Oh, traffic light infringement in UK. That's either he what you said, went through yellow, or didn't stop in time for red, or something weird like that."
Okay, so I guess it's nothing
He's
too
still
major.
a kid, man.
I think Max Verstappen got his road license after his super license.
He got his super license first,
Yeah.
and then for his first, pretty much his first whole season of F1, he couldn't, he didn't drive himself to the track. Somebody had to drive him because he could drive on the track. And what I was thinking about this was okay, what about street tracks? So you're technically driving on the roads of Azerbaijan, for example.
That's a good point.
How can you drive on those roads?
Hold on, I gotta steelman the DMV motor and vehicle enforcement case here.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Traffic lights and stop signs don't exist on racetracks. Well, I mean, arguably traffic lights do.
Okay,
to a degree.
But what I'm saying is
F1 cars don't have blinkers.
I was gonna say they're also not road legal cars,
and they don't have license plates.
that is true. But that's what I'm saying. My only point is that if you can't legally drive on the roads because you're not of age, how can you drive on the roads in an F1 car? How can you drive in an F1 car, period? And I think that's part of why Max will forever be the youngest ever F1 driver, because now you have to be 18.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Yeah, he's not the only one. I want to say Charles failed his driver's test the first time. But again, he probably did it in Monaco, which is really hard.
I was gonna say that's gotta be pretty darn hard.
He's probably taking the test in a Ferrari SF90 too.
Yeah, for
sure.
Charles' new SP1 is incredible. It's the matte black.
Oh, I saw
with
that.
The red and white
Sick.
stripe down the middle. He has his racing car
it's
number
very
on the side
similar
door.
to his.
What is it? It's a SP.
Yeah.
What is it?
But I'm not a
SP1.
card.
No, I think I'm wrong. What's the new Ferrari?
Well, there's an SP90 if that's what you're trying to
car.
say.
No.
Charles.
Or SF90, I should say.
Car.
I haven't heard of
You said it's
SP1.
black?
I
see it. Yeah. It has
that might be
two stripes down the middle, the Monaco flag.
That might
what
be
car
the
is that?
old one.
It is the 488 Pista.
That's his old one.
Yeah,
That's what I was saying. I think his new car looks fairly similar to the old one. But who am I to judge? Because I'm not, like I said, I'm not a car junkie.
Yeah, I forget what it is.
Doesn't Lando have a
Fiat Jolly?
Yeah, but it's
purple,
isn't it? It's
blue.
SP3.
It's blue.
That's it. It's SP3.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, tangent over. It's a Ferrari SP3 painted black.
See, this whole podcast, we're supposed to nerd out on cars. Doesn't necessarily have to be F1 cars.
Exactly.
We can talk about street cars.
You want to talk about the Ford Model T right quick?
Love it.
Exactly.
Great car, right?
Well, kind of still continuing on Ferrari, but on Charles Leclerc's teammate Carlos Sainz, he is recovering well. He is back in Europe.
Very good.
I think he'll be ready for Australia, given that Australia is not one of the hardest tracks on the calendar.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have, like, if he were to try to get ready for, like, a Grand Prix like Qatar, be a whole other set of circumstances. But
appendicitis, though, is you really don't. It's something you don't mess around with. I mean, my buddy had appendicitis when he was, I think, 11, and like, you can get killed by appendicitis.
Yeah.
So, but also we saw that video of him returning to the paddock, and he was walking very
you saw the
labored almost.
Too.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and I'm like, I actually don't think he's gonna be ready for Australia. I really think like it's gonna be much more of a challenge than we think.
Yeah, well, the thing is, too, we have to keep in mind, of course, is the Gs that these guys go through.
Yeah.
And, like, the neck train they have to go through to be ready to take on those Gs.
Yep.
It's like...
mess up your insides.
Exactly.
Albon was back next race.
Yeah, that's what I was
saying.
How long did it take for Albon?
So, the thing is, there's, like, laparoscopic way to do it, and there's the normal way to do it, and both of them have went the laparoscopic way, which is a much shorter recovery time, given that like 24 hours later he was at the track. So it tracks. But like you said, he was walking very, very slowly. Yeah. Given it's been 24 hours since
it was
had
like
surgery.
less than a day. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. Ollie Bearman is still set to be there because I'm 99% sure there's F2 that weekend as well. So he'll be there anyways.
Right.
But we'll see. But his engineer, who will definitely be there, is also set to be Lewis Hamilton's race engineer for 2025. So no more Lewis and Bono.
You hate to see it.
I'm ready for Lewis and Red. I am. Next year's our
Says
year.
the resident Ferrari fan.
Boy.
Through the
you say
roof
that
right
every
now.
year.
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
but it really is our year next year. I don't know.
Jason, we still have this year.
Well, but Max is going to win this year, so we can stop talking about this year.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it has reached. Well, no. Next week will be the next third race in a row. Then you can say that.
What?
It said next week will be 3 races in a row. Then you can say it.
Yeah, technically, true.
Well, if he wins next race, is that 10 in a row or 11 in a row?
Well, I'm just talking about this season.
I know, but
I think that's 10 in a row,
I think it's
right?
10 in a row.
Yeah.
I have an open question. Do you think Max will have like a Grand Slam this year? Like
He already did.
Wait, did he?
Yes.
Sweeping all the practices, sweeping qualifying.
Oh, that's not a Grand Slam.
Oh wait, what is
so
all
Grand
of it?
Slam? Well, I don't remember what it's called when it's
Grand
everything.
Shalom.
Grand Shalom.
Grand Shalom. That's right. Yeah, that's what I remember. I think he
maybe.
will, but I don't know.
It's not gonna be as prevalent. I think he'll have multiple Grand Slams this year,
Oh yeah,
which
for
is
sure.
Yeah.
pole position, leading every lap, winning the race, and then fastest lap.
Yeah,
I
I meant
think-
all those sections. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay.
With all the practice sessions, the Grand Slam, I don't know.
It's possible. Red Bull doesn't look
Maybe.
as fast in the practices, but that's not.
Red Bull doesn't try in the
exactly.
practices.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Sunday
you
drive.
see.
It's really funny because I get the feeling that Red Bull's like sandbagging the practices, but there's literally no reason to.
Right.
Like, everybody knows they're quick.
Oh yeah. 100%.
So, anyways, let's go into kind of the main thing we're doing this week. Silly season. We're going to go team by team. And this is so subject to change. I mean, we're doing it so early in the season. I mean, like Steven said, next week is the third race of the year.
Yep.
So there's still a lot that could change. But this is how we think the 2025 grid is going to pan out. Let's start with Red Bull. Any chances on Max actually leaving Red Bull? Anybody think that's actually going to happen?
Absolutely not.
I don't think
Zero.
so.
Zero.
I would-
I don't think there's zero chance.
Yeah, I was gonna
just don't-
say-
I don't think there's enough of a chance for me to put him somewhere else on the grid for 2025.
I was gonna say this
in my personal predictions.
maybe a 90 to 10% chance, like meaning the 10% he actually leaves, 90% chance like he doesn't. But
Well,
if
like-
Helmut just certainly says, I'm out of here.
Do you remember? I don't know if you guys remember this, but like Lando talked about that he was when he signed his contract, and they were talking about like him being teammates with Max, and he was like, "Well, I extended the invitation for Max to come to McLaren a long time ago," and he said, "No, I wonder why." And it's like Red Bull is so dominant right now
Yeah.
that why would he?
But it's also
To
get
recent
to have a
comments,
challenge.
too. Like, what? Didn't George just say, like, he's been, like, working with Toto a lot of the offseason, and, like, he's been seeing his phone and, like, who he's been talking
Yeah.
to? And it's like, George was like, I'm very excited for, like, next year, essentially.
Well,
So-
what George said too, and I read that whole article, was like, I am no matter who comes, I'm confident that I can beat them. And I'm like, okay, you can say that for a lot of people on the grid, but like if Alonso is your the other driver in that seat, I don't see you beating Alonso. I don't see you beating Max consistently.
Yeah.
I mean, he did beat Lewis. What was it? It wasn't last year. It was the year before.
Yep.
It was 2022 in the championship. But I just don't see it. Like he's like so confident. I just don't understand the confidence.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
But-
just George being George.
Yeah, I've
George
never been a
being
George fan.
George is a diva.
All right, what about Checo? Checo keeping his seat?
Oh, absolutely not.
I actually
Do not
disagree.
stand. Really?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's like I'm taking a big swing here, but if the year goes as it's going now for Red Bull, I, as a Red Bull principal or Red Bull leadership in general, would be like, okay, he's finishing
Yeah.
number 2, he's in second, he's doing his job
Well,
finally.
that's
fair.
what Helmut Marko said. Helmut Marko said he's doing what we need him to do, which is being runner-up to Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, as long as Perez keeps this pace All he needs to do is slot in right behind Max, and that's it. That's all they need. Why?
The problem is he's not right behind
things?
Max. He's like 15 seconds off the pace.
But he's always like 10 seconds ahead of third, though.
Even the world's best number 2, Bottas, was behind a bit.
Yeah,
like 2018 was pretty bad. I think he finished 5th that year when Lewis Hamilton won the championship.
Yeah.
And he still came back to be a great number 2 in 2019, 2020. 2021 helped secure the Constructors.
If we think about how poorly we said that Checo had of a season last year, he still finished 2nd in the championship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Was he 260-something points ahead of behind Max? Yes. But he was still 2nd.
Yeah.
So
well, I think we have to just understand what Red Bull's going for in a second driver. Are they going for a guy that's actually going to go up there and challenge Max, or that it's just going to be, another Bottas Hamilton situation? Be like, yeah, Hamilton's our main guy, Bottas. He does what Bottas does.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends on what they want to do with the second driver position.
All right. Well, with that said, we'll go through each of our predictions for the Red Bull seats of 2025. I said Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. Carlos was a Red Bull Junior. He came up through Toro Rosso, which is now Visa Cash App RB. I will never get used to saying that, but the Racing Bulls. And I think that there's not very many other options on the grid that are going to put him where he wants to be for now. Obviously, we've heard a lot of people talk about Audi, but that's like 2 years. It's a 2025, and then they come in 2026. And then there's no guarantees they're going to be quick right out the bat.
No.
Right.
So,
there's a lot of question marks there, especially with a new team coming in.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jason, who's your...
Yeah, so I don't know where Sainz is going to go. Like, I actually... Well, I have an idea at first. You want me to say my Sainz prediction or just Ferrari next year?
Let's go Red Bull. Let's talk to your Red Bull.
My Red Bull
prediction for
predictions.
next year, and then we'll go team by team.
I already kind of covered this a little bit. Is Max isn't going anywhere. All these rumors are fun to talk about, but he's scared of Bono. Bono's too strong.
Oh yeah, no, I firmly believe that GP would follow him anywhere.
Yeah. Basically, that's the situation right now. And Red Bull hasn't blown up yet. I don't think they will yet. So, and then Perez, he's been Bottas 2.0. Totally good for them. I don't see anything changing next year.
All right, Tristan.
Nothing.
I hate to twiddle the same horn or whatever I don't know what the saying is. I just made up my own saying there. It makes
there
no
you go.
sense.
Do what you gotta do.
Toot the same horn. Toot my own horn. The
whatever.
saying is toot my own horn.
But
to piggyback off that, like you need one of those corporate sayings. I echo what you're saying. Piggyback
I hear
off
what
of
you're
that.
saying, but I'm going to respectfully rebuke.
Piggyback off of what Jason was saying. No, yeah, I'm pretty much on the same train. Is like I think Max and Checo are going to stay the same. And again, it just falls into exactly what I was just saying. It's like if Checo checks the boxes, he did check the boxes last year, but in a very haphazard and like bad way. Like he came in second in the constructor. Like he did his job, but he needs to do it better. If he does do it better, I don't see why he loses that seat.
Yeah.
And again, it all falls into Max. I don't think Max is going anywhere. So I think Red Bull stays the same. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So like as long as Checo doesn't put a dent in it, then it should be okay. So that's the goal. At least I believe that's how that team is going to shape up for next year.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm different on this one. I think you look at this year, you look at Red Bull, and they probably could have just improved on their old car and been just as good, if not better, as last year. But no, they decided to go with a completely new car. And to your point, Tristan, they broke something that didn't need to be fixed. But I mean, obviously, it's working out great for them. So
true.
I'm going with that, and so I'm going with Carlos Sainz taking over Checo's spot. So
Red Bull is also one of those teams where it's like they do make. I don't want to say it's risky to take Carlos, but they make these riskier decisions and they make drastic decisions when it comes to their race seats. So honestly, Carlos in that seat is not like a stretch at all. And I genuinely can't see him anywhere else.
He's experienced hands, I mean, I see it at least a lateral move, maybe a little bit better than Checo. Yeah, so like that's not a bad move either.
Well, and the thing is too, I mean, I think at some point you're just not going to be able to do anything to make Max better except for to get him to push himself even farther than he already is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
true.
I think the best way you can do that is with another driver that's going to do that. I think
Do you
Carlos
think,
has that
okay,
talent.
so to piggyback off of that, do you think that the 2016 season with Lewis and Nico fighting made Lewis a better driver?
I think it's very much possible, yeah. I mean, I think it's always better when you can have a driver that's going to push you. I mean, you look at Ferrari with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz the way it is now. I mean, I think that's always better to have a driver that's going to challenge you.
That is a better dynamic. It's a good comparison, but I think it's tougher because Nico and Lewis didn't like each other. Like Charles and Carlos, I do, as far as I'm concerned, enjoy one another.
Yeah, they do like each other, yeah.
So,
I think George Russell said the same thing to affect, like, even though Williams is great, Latifi did not push him. And he arrived to Mercedes and it was just no teammate pushed him farther, and he hasn't seen a work ethic, anything like Lewis Hamilton before. Yeah. So literally, it could make the difference having a driver that's like slightly better and more experienced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine this, guys. Max Verstappen actually has to try. Can you imagine that?
Well, I was going to talk about Charles and Carlos because I don't know if you saw this video that Ferrari posted. Like a fan gave Carlos like a knitted like chili pepper. It was very cute. It had like a little face on it. It was like it's cute. And he gives it to Charles and goes, "This is from my fan to me to you, as like our post teammate era present." And Charles looks at Carlos and goes, "We still have a whole season." like poor guy. Like I genuinely think those two are the best of friends, and they do push each other hard, but they know their limits. Like I know we talked about was it like Monza when the two of them were fighting for that last podium position last year. They were respectful. Like they fought and they fought very hard, but at no point did I fully believe that they would ever crash into each other.
Right.
They know their limits.
Yeah.
So.
Best relationship since Carlos and Lando.
Yeah. Well, let's go V-Carb or whatever, Racing Bulls. RB, whatever. Yuki staying or leaving. I know Honda is going to be with, is it Aston Martin? Moving forward, if I'm not mistaken.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Do you think that we would go to Aston to follow Honda as the Japanese driver?
I don't know. Man, I really don't think so. Because
he's a Honda junior driver. He was never really a Red Bull junior driver. He's a Honda junior driver. And Honda fought for him tooth and nail, get through Japanese Super Formula, get into that Cash App car right now. The Toro Rosso. And so I think he follows the Honda and goes to Aston Martin.
So you have Stroll and Tsunoda at Aston Martin?
No, actually, yes, yeah. I was thinking V-Carb. V-Carb. I have Ricciardo staying next year, and Lawson stepping in.
Yeah, Lawson. Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
I have Alonso retiring.
I do have Lawson also at V-Carb, but I have Danny Ricciardo retiring, and Yuki staying for at least one more year.
See, I mean, I just feel like Yuki deserves to have an opportunity somewhere better than AlphaTauri right now.
I see it, but I also and I agree with that. But my I guess it's like a supporting point is that I genuinely never see Yuki in a Red Bull seat. So if he's never going to be in a Red Bull seat, why is he wasting not only his time but the V-Carb's time or Racing Bull's time taking up that seat? Because my understanding is that seat is to prepare you to be at Red Bull.
Exactly. It's
just like it was with Max.
Seat.
It's like a development seat. It's a sister team. It's supposed to prop up the top team, but prepare drivers to already in Formula One to now be at a superior team when you're actually fighting for podiums and pole positions and whatnot.
Right.
So if he's just sitting there kind of taking up a spot, I don't see him moving going into next year, but I agree with you on that side.
Yeah. Yep. Like you said, I mean, he's just not going to Red Bull. So, I mean, the best chance for him to win, especially in the years to come, is Aston Martin right now, I think.
Yeah. Well, I really like Tristan's position for the Racing Bulls because I think it's an interesting one that many people are not talking about.
It is an interesting one. So I am seeing a return of Pierre Gasly to the Red Bull machine, meaning the Red Bull, the cogs in their system. So I see him back at V-Carb. I think he's going to lose all faith in Alpine after this season. And as he should, in my opinion. I mean, again, we saw a horrendous start for the season last year, beginning with McLaren, and then they came back. I just don't think we're going to see that this year in Alpine.
The difference is that Alpine has, McLaren had things in the works.
Yes.
Yep.
McLaren came out the gate saying, we suck, but we are developing this car, and we know exactly where we're going, and we've already started development.
Yep.
So that you saw that, not that late into the season, they did get upgrades that brought them closer and closer and closer to where they were actually the only people in the back half of the season to fight Red Bull.
Yeah. But we're not going to see that.
I'm not saying that. Alpine is losing people where they should be bringing people in. They lost, their technical director.
I mean, it's a sinking ship.
So
and that's why I think he's going to hop on a lifeboat and just get on over to VCarb if he can.
Yeah.
And again, we know Pierre has relations with the Toro Rossos with that team because he raced for them for, I think, at least 3 seasons, if not
since
longer.
2019.
2019 was 4 seasons.
Plus his seasons because he had only 1 season.
Oh,
at
actually,
Red Bull.
part of 2018. He was at the back half of 18, right?
Yes, I think he got switched out. Or something.
Because there's Kvyat and who else was there? Kvyat got dropped. Sainz went to Renault when.
No, he was a full-time driver in 2018
for
Toro Rosso with Hartley.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I was trying to figure out what his last name was. I know it was Brandon, but I couldn't remember his last name. Brandon Hartley.
Yeah, he got dropped mid-season, and so did Kvyat.
Yep.
Yes. Yes, because Kvyat was initially he was dropped from Red Bull to Toro Rosso.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
For Max, which I talked about in this week's.
There you go.
I just have a question for Tristan, though.
Go right ahead.
What is Gasly's career progression now?
That's the thing. When he left VCarb or AlphaTauri, what it was at the time, the point was to leave the Red Bull family because he knew he was never going to be a Red Bull driver.
Yeah.
Right? So what is
the reason?
I get it, him jumping ship, but how does he?
So part of my reasoning why, and again, he literally is quoted saying I know I'm never going to win races at Toro Rosso or VCarb, and that's fine. I understand that, but I think he's kind of just grasping for air right now. I know that's sad to say. Pierre Gasly's a very talented race car driver, but
he's a race winner.
He's a race winner, yes. It's only one race, right? It was Monza,
2020.
Multi-podium finisher.
Yes, very talented. Listen, the guy is great. I don't know. I just don't know if his career has any higher projection at this point.
He's a great.
I know that's sad to say, but I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
Alpine would need a McLaren style recovery.
Yeah.
From 2017 to now.
I mean, he's 28 too, so he's still he's young-ish. Obviously that's young.
He's the same as Carlos, and Carlos has been at a top team for a while now.
Exactly. Wow. That's cemented.
Yeah.
He's much older than Max.
This pick mostly came into mind. Again, we've talked about a lot of good reasonings as well. We've all collabed here on this idea of Pierre being at VCarb, but I think the main reason comes inside with the second driver I have, which is Enzo Fittipaldi, who, again, correct me if I said his last name wrong.
That's right.
But
you said it right.
So
proud.
Okay. I think Red Bull's going to try and get another young talent in the works, in the seat, get it started, and I think they're going to use Gasly as a great mentor role.
Like they did with Yuki?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think they're going to do that, but they're going to lose faith in Yuki, and he's going to be gone. And then Ricardo, I don't know. I know I'm actually working on the side of he's going to go to Aston now, which is, I kind of want to change my list because I think that's actually, Honda definitely wants national representation, which by having a Japanese driver in the field would be amazing. So Honda definitely wants that. But I think Fittipaldi is going to come in, he's going to start his rookie season at VCarb, and he's going to have Pierre as a great mentor to work side by side with. Because again, great race car driver.
What's your argument for Enzo over Liam Lawson?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean,
because arguably, when I watch back Drive to Survive, when I watch back to Liam Lawson interviews, when I see him at the track, my immediate thinking is that he knows he has a seat for 2025.
Yeah.
Because that's the image that he gives to me, because he seems so confident, so chill. He's their official reserve, and he's at every single race this year, all 24, which you don't see Robert Schwartzman, who's Ferrari's reserve. He doesn't go to every race. Yep. He goes to some races. Felipe Drukovic is Aston Martin's reserve. He's not at every race. So it's not as common for them to be at every single race. And Liam Lawson is going to be there. And it almost seems to me like he's taking the year. He knew he wouldn't be on the grid this year, but he's taken the year to learn the ropes of everything that goes on the team for next year.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how it seems to me.
To me, it's like, I agree with all of that, but I just had a gut feeling when I chose Fittipaldi. I was like, I think Liam is either A, going to jump ship to a different series for some reason. I don't know why. That was like my gut reaction to meaning like go into IndyCar, like something like that, like switch it up.
Yeah.
Or B, is going to find that exact same role at a different team. I don't know who
a
with
reserve
or how.
A seat?
As a reserve, because again, he's actually not on my list right now. But I think my heart was saying that I think he's gonna like switch up with. Oh God, who did I think I was going to? I wrote this down on my phone. Because again, Liam Lawson is like one of those talents that we talked about a lot last season, and I was a big fan of him because rookie kid comes in and gets points in like his first race, like it's crazy. But I don't know. I just have it was just gut feeling that I thought he wasn't going to get on a seat this next year.
Well,
Fair
it's
enough.
valid. Everybody, I mean, we all have like these gut feelings sometimes, and maybe, who knows, maybe yours pans out to be right, and we're all left laughing.
Well, none of us predicted Lewis going to Ferrari, so
That
I
is
mean,
very
like,
true.
that's
That's
what
the
I'm
thing.
saying.
When I was looking through my predictions, and I was like, okay, well, I feel like I'm playing it very safe, but based on what's already happened this year, the rumors that have already come out this year, I was like, what gives us the feeling that it's actually going to be like a safe thing? Like, we have 14 drivers with contracts up. Like, who's to say that they don't all mix it up and not just all re-sign for the same teams like I think some are expecting? Anyways, let's talk about Haas. Kevin Magnussen, not as sharp as he used to be. Nico Hülkenberg, a great qualifier. And for that reason, I have him staying and mentoring Ollie Bearman because who said this? Someone said this, one of the drivers said, if I were Fred Vasseur, I'd get him a seat, or I think maybe it was Toto Wolff, I'd get him a seat in Formula One ASAP, because if not, he's jumping ship somewhere else. I think this is Ferrari's best way to do it. Lend him out to Haas for a year, maybe 2 years. Once Lewis is retired, then bring Ollie in.
Yep. I like that.
That's fair.
I like
that's
that quite
fair.
a bit.
I just don't know how well he's going to do with Haas. I just don't know if that's the best situation.
I don't know if the goal is for him to do well. I think the goal is just to get that seat time.
No,
Yeah.
Which is why I really like that move.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I disagree with is Nico sticking around. I think Haas is going to completely wash their team. And this completely goes in the side of what Gene Haas said at the beginning of the season. He's like, he wants to win races. He knows he needs to be better, like yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Wants to win races, won't invest in the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I still think he's going to be like, we're going to wash this next year. And again, I didn't mean to skip anybody, but my predictions is Ollie as well. I think that's a great idea. Ferrari's going to want him in that seat to get some time. And then I have Tsunoda coming over to Haas. This coincides completely with what I was saying. Is I think Red Bull is going to ditch Tsunoda.
I agree.
And again, it kind of conflicts now with I'm thinking about Aston. Like that's actually a really good idea. Like he could be going to that seat. But I'm gonna stick to my guns, and I'm gonna say that he's gonna go to Haas. They're gonna look for some not talent, but like Tsunoda is
some proven
proven
drivers.
He's got years under his belt, but he's
older.
young. He's not
young.
like K-Mag and what's it called?
Nico Hülkenberg.
And Hülkenberg, where they're not they're still good, solid drivers, but like they've got some like they're a little older. They're gonna look for slightly younger talent.
Yeah,
no, that's a fair point. I
don't
know why. I mean, I guess just the reputation of Haas. I'm just scared that Haas would ruin Ollie.
I
see it. I get it.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I just have Haas staying the same. There's not really much thought to it, honestly. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, you can bring in young talent, absolutely.
Yep.
Develop it that way, but I don't know. I just feel like they have too many problems, especially with their team principals saying that they're bad already.
Yeah.
So I think they need to figure out their front office before they start looking at drivers, but... Yeah,
I agree with that. That's fair.
Know.
I also think, and this is something I was going to mention earlier, is I think a lot of these teams are going to do 1-year deals again.
Yeah.
And we're going to be seeing a very similar situation again next year, where there are going to be so many contracts up for grabs by the end of the year, because there are drivers that want long-term deals. Bottas talked about when he left Mercedes, where he was like, I'm so much happier now that I have a multi-year contract. But besides these kind of more top teams that's like Max and Red Bull, Lando and McLaren, Charles and Ferrari, I just genuinely don't see these like super long-term contracts going into play.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think there's only really a few drivers that you could look at that are even like that. I mean, Lewis, I think he already has a contract. Really, other than that, I mean, everyone else is pretty flexible, I feel like. I mean, I think Carlos is probably due for a long-term contract. But besides that, maybe Yuki, but other than that, it's really like everyone else is kind of just competing for a contract, I feel like. So I think, to your point, I think next year you'll see a lot of prove-it deals.
Yep.
And then go from there.
I agree.
I agree with Tristan. Blow it up. Like, just blow it up at Haas.
TNT.
Because, honestly, I see Ollie Bearman and Theo Pourchaire, a name we haven't heard in a little bit, because he won Formula 2 last year. He finished second the year before. And his rookie year, he finished fifth in Formula 2. Like, fifth, second, first, 20 podiums in that time, a total of 6 wins. Like, he was incredible leading up and in Formula 2. The only way I don't see Porsche there, because he is a Stake F1 team junior driver. I don't think Stake wants to get rid of Bottas, because they want Bottas there from his experience from Mercedes. For Audi, I think Audi wants to keep Bottas to have like a former driver from a top team, help them develop the team. If anything, I see the shuffle going where Guanyu Zhou would go to Haas and Pourchaire would step in at Stake. But that's like plan B. Plan A is Bearman and Pourchaire in the Haas car.
I like that.
I see that. I like that. I actually we can talk about Stake now. I see Stake going in a fairly similar direction to your second option, whereas I think that if they want to make changes to their driver lineup, they've got to do it now, going into 2025, not going into 2026, so that at least there's some consistency there going into the next team. Yeah. With that said, one of my favorite drivers in F2 right now is Zane Maloney. He is a Stake junior driver, and he is doing extremely well in F2. This has nothing to do with my bias that I got a picture with him or anything, but I see him going potentially into F1, taking Zhou Guanyu's spot. I think Zhou had enough time to kind of sort of prove himself, and I feel like he didn't really do that. I've not seen much improvement from him, so I see Stake being Zane Maloney and Valtteri Bottas next year.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's fair. I honestly just have it staying the same. I just have a Zhou and Bottas just staying
I think all
there.
of you have it staying the same.
Yeah. we don't see any
just
shuffle.
So
like,
quiet.
why?
Like, I don't know. I don't expect anything. Like, again, Haas is like the same circumstance almost, but like they're not quiet. Like, look at last weekend, right?
Yeah.
Where like
they're admittedly bad.
Arguably, they made that race exciting because
you said that. Yeah, like they played the ultimate strategy game last week.
Yep.
And I honestly, I'm all for it on the Nico Hülkenberg side. On the Kevin Magnussen side, I think it was a little bit aggressive.
Oh, for sure.
But
K-Mag's a legend. He's incredible.
He's good. I arguably
McLaren
argue
podium
he's
finisher,
like the
K-Mag.
Other Minister of Defense. We have the Mexican Minister of Defense in Checo.
He's the Viking of defense.
Viking of Defense. I like that. I like that.
There you go.
Well, he's
all right,
Danish.
let's talk about Mercedes.
Uh-huh.
George is locked in. Lewis is going to Ferrari, so Ferrari will be Lewis and Charles. Who is taking that second seat?
Ooh,
There's
I
so
have
many
a fun
options.
One.
Go for it.
I went with George Russell and Fernando Alonso, baby.
Okay, but that's predictable.
It is predictable, but it's so
Predictable's
I don't know.
fine. It's okay.
Predictable is good.
Alonso's going to retire before he goes to Mercedes.
Oh,
really?
Honestly, I think he's not going to get that Mercedes shot. They're not looking for experience. They're already experienced.
Yeah.
They know what they're
Well,
doing.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I get that argument. That's the argument I have. I also thought it was really interesting what Fernando Alonso said when he was asked about the Mercedes seat. He said, I need to decide if I even want to drive next year in the first place, whether that be at Aston Martin, whether that be a Mercedes, whether that be anywhere. Because he is getting older, and we are getting more and more and more races. We're for sure at least going to have 24 next year.
Yeah.
So who's to say we're not going to have 25, 26, 30 in the near future?
I just think if you put Fernando in that seat, I think that will be his calling card. I think he has the best chance of winning a championship at Mercedes next year.
Ooh.
I really do. I mean, I
like
think it's way better than Aston Martin right now. I think anyway. I mean, I think the experience. I mean, obviously they're not been as good as years prior, but I think they'll get that turned around, and I think you have George in there who's really, on the come up, and I think you put Fernando in there, I think you have a win now team. So
Fair.
Yeah.
I trust Mercedes over Aston, but I think they're comparable. Like
Overall,
I trust Mercedes
Right now
though
they are.
much more
Yeah.
than I trust Aston. I think Jason and I took a very similar approach to this, where I'm thinking they want middle, like not elderly talent, not elderly. That's strange to say, but
Fernando's
not
a spring chicken,
like an
baby.
Alonso type of talent and experience, but more of like a 4 or 5 seasons under their belt type of experience.
that's
So
fair.
somebody but still with more potential.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
already tons of experience.
And I'm also actually thinking, I think Mercedes is going to use next year as a receptacle to not settle down with somebody, but to like kind of hone in for the 2026 season.
Yeah.
So I'm taking Carlos Sainz going to Mercedes.
Very
I
valid.
think Carlos is going to be looking for, again, it kind of coincides with how, what's it called? Marina, you had him at Red Bull. I think he's looking for like a very competitive 1-year deal, and then he's going to jump ship to Audi. So like I think he is going to. Those are the 2 strongest options in my opinion for him is Mercedes and Red Bull, and I'm choosing him with Mercedes just because. I don't know. I feel like he'd be a better teammate with Russell than he would with Verstappen.
That's true. I also see that being very, very valid if Mercedes want to go the young driver route of Max Verstappen without taking Kimi Antonelli right now. Because what I will say is my pick for Mercedes is George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. However, that's very, it's very flexible in my mind because I still, watching F2, don't think Kimi Antonelli is ready for Formula 1.
I was going to say, yeah, it's just
so
like he doesn't show
your pick makes sense because you're taking Carlos for a year. Yep. He's going to jump ship to Audi, and then you bring in Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah.
Now, my only thing is Mercedes have the same driver lineup for so many years. I mean, they had Lewis and Valtteri for so long, and then Valtteri leaves, and it's Lewis and George, and that foreseeable future, and then Lewis jump ship. Yeah. But I just don't know if I see a turnover that fast where it's like you're basically just a replacement driver for a year and then we're getting rid of you.
Yeah.
So
I mean, my only argument is too. I almost feel like Mercedes would be a downgrade for Carlos.
I agree.
Probably would be, but what are his options, right?
I mean,
it's that's immediate, it's a very small downgrade. I feel like it would be even more of a downgrade going to somewhere like Williams, which is where Jason thinks he's going.
Because I was gonna say
crazy.
it's like he's not gonna get the McLaren seat because again, I think they're both locked in.
Yeah,
Lando and
Oscar and Lando.
Oscar.
Yeah.
So he's not gonna get that seat, and then obviously he's leaving Ferrari, which I would argue those are the 2 teams that are most competitive against Red Bull right now.
Yeah.
And then comparably, Marina picked him for Red Bull. It's possible. I just again in my heart, I don't think he's gonna get that seat. So the next best choice to me would be Mercedes.
Yeah.
No, that's
I
logical.
agree with that.
That's logical.
Yeah.
Unless he went to Aston with Yuki.
But
don't
also
see him in
Stroll, dude, is Stroll ever gonna lose his seat? No.
No.
It's
Not with
like
his
no
dad.
way.
No.
Unless if he gets
No.
bored and it's like I don't want to do this anymore.
Lance Strollovich, the next tennis champion.
Oh my
It's strolling
gosh.
time, dude. That's what he said.
Yeah.
For Mercedes, I have obviously George T-Pose Russell staying and Alex Albon stepping up.
Yep.
I totally see that.
He
I like that.
is such a talented driver. When he stepped in that Toro Rosso, I think it was late 2018 into 2019, so fast, so good, so amazing, toe to toe with everybody in a Toro Rosso, which was insane.
Yep.
And that Red Bull stint, basically almost killed his career. He had to go to German touring car, DTM. So I think with such talent and in a Mercedes-related team right now with James Vowles, the ex-Mercedes man, I think Vowles could put in a good word for him to Toto, and he would take in. The interesting part is when when Alex Albon first went to Williams and he had to break that Red Bull contract, Toto Wolff was opposed to it because he was afraid Alex Albon was going to share Mercedes engine secrets with Red Bull Honda. So that they already jumped over that hump. That's in the past. Now you got James Vowles there. He's been a Mercedes team for multiple years now. I see it as a pretty good option. I'd be excited for that.
I think
Mercedes
it's definitely
lineup.
a really good option. It's like Albon's chance to get back into the top of the midfield.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
say let's say that's top of the midfield. My only thing is that Red Bull background. It just doesn't click for me. I think it's a great option for them for Mercedes. I just personally can't see it.
Side note, I love personally, it's my favorite couple in the grid is him and Lily. They're adorable.
Yes, they're so cute.
But I think they had an interview somewhat recently where Lily was asked like who does she root for, and she was like, "Oh, I root for like the underdogs," and and Albon's right next to her, and she's like, "That's why he roots for me."
That's so cute. It makes sense, but he's not going to be an underdog if he's not.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be really cool. I would be really hyped for that move.
She also did I think it was her. She did like a modeling thing for McLaren.
Really? God, they're all over the place.
Yes, they are. Well, they're all over the place. I mean, if you got a modeling job and you were going to get paid money to model, wouldn't you vote for anyone?
Yeah.
Like,
allegiances be damned. I mean,
I don't care who my boyfriend is.
I'm just curious. I don't know if this is entirely relevant. I'm just curious how old Albon is right now.
Albon.
27?
I'm going to guess
okay.
28,
so he's still
maybe.
young-ish.
I think he's younger than Carlos, so that's why. And Carlos
he is 27 on the nose.
He's because Carlos is 28 or 29.
Well, yeah.
And I was 99% sure that he was younger.
Yep.
But there's these like mini little classes in F1. Like Charles and Max are the same age. Pierre and Esteban are the same age as Alex and George, if I'm not mistaken. And there's these like little groups where it's like they were a year or two ahead of each other in like karting, and then that became Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 4, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm trying to think which teams we didn't talk about. Well, I have Alex staying at Williams with Logan.
I have the same lineup.
Yep.
I have the same lineup.
Same here.
I'm the only one that deviates here. I think Sargent is out. Sargent was just there because of his money. Like, obviously, you need to have a level of skill to get an F1 super license. And he has enough skill. But does he have the speed? No. He's just too far behind. Alex Albon is showing him up every weekend. I see Sainz, since he's left without a seat, I don't see him going to stake, at least not yet, until it's Audi. I don't see Mercedes taking him. I do see him slotting in at Williams after Albon leaves, and Williams also taking Antonelli if he has a good year.
So you just completely dismissed Carlos going to Red Bull?
Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting.
Wow.
I think it falls into that slot of like, he's just looking for he's looking for a seat regardless next year. Ideally,
he can't be off the grid.
Yeah,
that's his problem.
yeah.
He can't, like, if he's gonna go the Audi route, no matter whether or not he is going the Audi route, I feel like he can't afford to take a year off like Ricardo did.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's
because he doesn't
Ricardo.
have that. He doesn't have the allegiance that Ricardo does. No offense to Carlos, I love Carlos, but he does not have the support of like a Christian Horner like Daniel Ricciardo did, because Daniel Ricciardo left and he knew at some point he would probably be coming back because Christian Horner loves him.
Yep.
Favorite driver.
That is Christian Horner's favorite driver is Daniel Ricciardo, for sure. Max comes in a close second, but Daniel he's ride or die, and he never
what
understood.
What about Seb? Oh, multi-21, that's why Seb. Never mind.
But, but Seb is different. I think he likes Seb,
Special
but
case.
just not
Special case.
not as much as Daniel.
Side chick.
But Carlos doesn't have that. So if Carlos is gone, then I don't see him coming back.
Yeah. No.
He's gotta make that sacrifice of taking a lower team. If he cannot get the Mercedes or the Red Bull drive, I think he's going to have to go lower.
I would just be shocked if that happened.
It's
honestly.
upsetting. He's a casualty of F1 only having 20
seats.
Yeah.
Hence why Andretti should be part of Formula One.
I wish.
Did you see, by the way, they just revealed like a new headquarters?
Oh, yeah. They're building it right
now. They're putting
Yeah.
so much money into this, and I feel like they're going to get rejected again.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad for them. But
yeah, they're trying. They're trying.
anyways, I want to read through our grids real quick. As a recap, I have Max and Carlos at Red Bull, Charles and Lewis obviously at Ferrari, and Lando and Oscar at McLaren, which is the obvious. Mercedes, George and Kimi Antonelli, Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso, and Lance Stroll saying the same. Haas, Ollie Bearman coming in, replacing Kevin Magnussen, and Nico Hülkenberg staying. Williams, also Alex and Logan staying the same. RBs, Liam and Yuki, Stake, Zane Maloney, and Valtteri Bottas, and Gasly and Ocon staying at Alpine.
A little aside, it did take, obviously, as our crowd knows, we have a sheet that we work on, and we get to see what our information is and all that. And when Marina wrote Kimi initially, I was like, Raikkonen? He's coming back?
That's what I thought too. Well, what was it? See, who just wrote Raikkonen? Someone was typing Raikkonen on the sheet right as I was doing it, and that's why they were laughing.
That was me.
Anyways, since you're yapping over there. Tristan, you want to go through yours?
A little yap accusation there. Yeah, so I got, again, a recap. Max and Checo are going to stay at Red Bull, and then Charles and Lewis, obviously, McLaren, Lando, and Oscar. And I got Carlos Sainz and Russell at Mercedes. Got Alonso and Stroll. I'm going to keep that the same at Aston. Haas is Ollie and Tsunoda. Williams, Albon, and Sargent. V-Carb is going to be Pierre and Enzo Fittipaldi. And Bottas and Zhou at Stake. And then Ocon and Magnussen at Alpine. I said that again. I messed it up again. Twice. Ridiculous.
I had a hot take about them that I guess I didn't get to mention. I don't know. How long are they going to stay around? Are they going to be a team?
Alpine? Yeah. As a team?
Yeah.
Well, they have so much. They have so many investor backings that I feel like they'll be there for a while.
They might sell the team again, like they did for 2011. They sold it to like Genie Capital and an investor group that turned into Lotus F1 team, and then it remained that until Renault bought back all the shares of the team, and they came back as Renault in 2016. I think we might see something like that happen. Like since they've already sold literally a quarter of the team off to a private equity firm, that the investment group with all the celebrities on it, I could see them, this is their way out. They've already sold a piece of it. They're going to sell the other 75% to some other organization that wants to run it. Hello, Andretti, call up, get the Gamebridge funding. I mean, we'll see how committed Renault is. But ever since, like, Alain Prost was on their board of directors as an advisor, and he left or was fired and said it's going terribly. Dang. Your own former world champion is saying that about you. It's like Alonso saw the writing on the wall. Piastri saw the writing on the wall. Like,
I mean, Piastri could not have been more iconic.
It's been spiraling downhill for a while now, and obviously Ricciardo saw that too, even though it didn't really work out for him. You know, I'd say he's in a better spot today than he would be on an Alpine right now.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And the thing is, too, I mean, I know you said Andretti, and that would obviously, I think, be the coolest thing, but how about Lotus coming back? I mean, I see them in the automotive world. I mean, they're making moves.
I think we might, if it's going to be a car company, it's going to be a Chinese firm like Geely Auto. They bought Volvo. So they literally own Volvo cars. They may try and revive something. I don't know. There's a lot of money out there right now in the auto space with EVs, a lot of investment in marketing for that type of stuff. And with F1 going hybrid, and some teams pulled out of Formula E, like we might see something interesting next few years.
And the thing I'll say is, too, I would have to look into it, but I know at least in the past, Lotus used Toyota engines for their cars. So, I don't know. I mean, you said hybrids, so who knows? I mean, you see Toyota's pedigree in Le Mans. I mean, could we see Toyota come to Formula One? I don't know.
Come back? Yeah. I would. Apparently, that 2010 car would have been a killer, and they dropped out right before, just the same way Honda dropped out right before, and Braun GP ran the 2009 Honda and won. Who knows? Maybe Toyota would have won in 2010. I bet they're kicking themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Well,
could be.
With that said, you have Ocon and Gasly saying the same. What else you got on your grid?
Yeah, so let's see. I have Red Bull saying the same, so Verstappen, Perez. At Ferrari, we already know Leclerc, Hamilton. McLaren saying the same, Norris, Piastri. Mercedes, Russell with Albon. Aston Martin, I have Lance, Tennis, Stroll with Tsunoda. Haas, I have Ali and Pourchaire. Williams, I have Sainz and Antonelli. V-Carb, I have Ricciardo and Lawson. Stake, Zone, Bottas, and Alpine, the two Frenchmen, and Ocon and Gasly.
See, I think besides your Carlos Sainz pull to Williams, I think your grid might be the most accurate at the end of the year.
Could very well be.
Very round, yeah.
I try very hard to have that be the case.
He's got investors to support.
I know. Yeah. I'm calling into Paddock right now, making sure this happens.
He's a bookie for like 20 people.
I'm setting odds on the other screen. I'm going to do a monitor right now.
Yeah, he's betting on his odds.
All right, Steven, last but not least.
Yeah. So I got Max and Carlos going for Red Bull. I got Charles and Lewis at Ferrari. I got Lando and Piastri staying the same at McLaren. I have George and Alonso going to Mercedes. I have Zul and Stroll staying with his dad at Aston Martin. I have Haas, Hulkenberg, and K-Mag staying the same. I got Williams. I got Albon and Sargent still. V-Carb. I got the battle of the two drivers, Perez and Ricardo. I have Stake, Zhu, and Bottas, and Alpine. I just have Gasly and Ocon. So a little crazy on there, but
fair enough.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, before we end off, let's do our quote of the day. You will understand why I picked this quote after. It's near a fish.
Near a fish.
It's near a fish.
That's the quote.
Near a fish?
That is the quote.
Is this an in the car quote or
This
press
is
conference
not an
quote?
in the car quote.
Okay,
That's
it's near
so
a fish.
vague.
Jeez.
I will say it's neither of the two options you just said.
Interesting.
But if you look up F1 quotes, it's in every single video.
Huh.
So if that gives you any hint.
I wouldn't say it's not a driver. but
Did
it
somebody
is a
drive
driver.
their
It is a
car
driver?
into the water?
No.
Like,
Alright.
where's your car? It's
Monaco just
Nope.
drives off.
It's near a fish.
Was this in the last decade?
Yes.
Oh,
This was in the last couple of years.
Oh.
3 years ago.
Still in the same team?
He is still at the same team, but his teammate in which he said this with is not.
I'm gonna say it's Max.
Nope.
Just in
Lando?
longevity, I would have to say
Who'd you say?
Hamilton.
Lando?
Yes.
Hey, let's go.
So Lando hates sushi.
yes, I did know that.
So
I
I don't
knew
know
that
if you
one.
remember this.
I've
and
seen
you
This
go,
is
that
a
video.
science
Near a
sushi
Yes.
video.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So they're talking about they're like doing like a taste test thing, and Sainz
Yeah,
picks
they're
it up
doing
and goes,
sushi.
"This one doesn't have any fish," and he goes,
like,
"It's
but it's
Oh
near
yes,
the
yeah,
fish.
all right, now, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I picked this quote because I have seen so much Lando content this week. He is already in Australia, and the fan pics are coming in hot. Every time I wake up, because of the time zone over there, I see new pics of him running and doing stuff, and it's really great. It's been
Hey,
great
you
content.
Just
can
a
never
happy
get
guy.
enough of Lando content.
No, you
Come
cannot.
on.
You can never get enough
That's
Lando
my
content.
guy.
Why? I'm sorry. I wish you guys could see this sheet right now. I don't know who put this in, but it's Charles Legg.
Oh, I saw that.
We'll have to
yeah.
insert. We'll have to insert a picture
I'll
at the
insert
end.
a picture
of
at
that,
the
yeah.
end if I remember.
Charles Legg.
That's
I'm the
really
one who
funny.
commented.
Anyways.
What the hell am I looking at? So.
Oh yeah, no, I keep that photo deep in my heart. So every time I want to see the show notes, I need to remind myself who I do this for. Charles Legg.
Praise be Charles Legg.
Okay. I get it. I
Bad
get
on
it.
the Charles Legg.
Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this week's podcast. As always, if you want more content from us, we have Tech Tuesday, Wag Wednesday, Throwback Thursday, Fun Fact Friday, and Man on the Street content, as well as this week we're going to be on the 360 Sports PSU live show. So tune into that. I will try and put it in our bio if I remember. And the podcast episodes every Monday at 11:30 Eastern Time. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.
Peace.
Bye.
Go Landos.